Okay, so we're finished with Unit 6, but I want to go ahead and do the review exercise as well on page 82 in your student's book, 82 and 83. So this review is actually for Units 5 and 6. So student's book, page 82. Okay, so the first exercise is a listening activity. So I'm going to play the audio and I want you to take notes and write the characteristics of tutors and the requirements to be a tutor. And take other notes as well because I'm going to ask some more questions. Okay.
Review. Units 5 and 6. Page 82. Exercise 1.
Good afternoon, listeners. Today we're talking with Rebecca Ford, Coordinator of Adult Literacy Services at our downtown library. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Ford.
It's a pleasure to be here.
To start off, could you describe your job for us?
Sure. I'm responsible for training and supervising all the volunteer literacy tutors at the library.
How many tutors are there?
We have between 20 and 30 volunteer tutors at a time.
And who are the students that they work with?
The students are adults who don't have good reading and writing skills. Some of them are immigrants who can't read and write very well, even though they've been in this country for many years.
I see. Could you tell us more about your tutors? What kind of people are they?
Well, our tutors are all different ages, and they have different backgrounds. Some of them are volunteering for the first time, and some have volunteered many times in their lives. But in one way, they're all the same. They're very compassionate. They really care about helping other people. Also, they're very generous with their time.
I suppose they also have to be very patient if they're teaching adults to read.
Yes, that's right.
What are the requirements for becoming a literacy tutor?
Okay. First, they're required to have 12 hours of training in tutoring techniques. Then, as soon as they complete their training, we match each tutor with a student. They're required to meet their student for at least 1.5 hours per week. And the library requires a minimum commitment of 6 months.
That's good to know. Ms. Ford, if any of our listeners are interested in volunteering, who should they contact?
They can call my office. The number is 914-555-6700.
Okay, listeners, that number again is 914-555-6700 if you want to volunteer. We appreciate your taking the time to talk with us today, Ms. Ford.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so first of all, who are the speakers? Who are the speakers? Okay, so we could say Rebecca Ford and the interviewer are speaking or talking. You could also say the speakers are Rebecca Ford and the interviewer. Okay, and you can see that this is a radio interview from the instructions. Now, let me ask another question. What does Rebecca Ford do? What does she do? Okay, so you could say she is the coordinator of Adult Literacy Services at the library. She is the coordinator of Adult Literacy Services at the library. Okay, and this time I want you to make a question. The answer is, she's responsible for training and supervising the volunteer literacy tutors. She's responsible for training and supervising the volunteer literacy tutors. So make a question, and that's the answer that I just read. Okay, so you could say, what is she responsible for? Or what is she responsible for doing? Okay, you could also say, what are her responsibilities? What are her responsibilities? Okay, and then the next question, who do the volunteers work with? Who do the volunteers work with? Okay, so you could say, they work with adults who don't have good reading and writing skills. They work with adults who don't have good reading and writing skills. Okay, now let's look at the chart of characteristics and requirements. So I want you to make a question for characteristics of tutors. Okay, it's just a title, but make it into a question. And same thing for requirements to be a tutor. Make it into a question. Okay, so we could say, what are the characteristics of tutors? What are the characteristics of tutors? Or we could ask, what kind of people are the tutors? What kind of people are the tutors? And then for requirements, we could say, what are the requirements to be a tutor? What are the requirements to be a tutor? Or we could also say, what are the requirements for becoming a tutor? What are the requirements for becoming a tutor? Okay, so now let's look at the characteristics of tutors. We can see the first one is compassionate. They care about helping. Okay, compassionate, care about helping. And for the second one, you should have written generous with their time. Generous with their time, or just generous with time. That's okay too. And then number 3, patient. Okay, so make one sentence including all 3 characteristics. Okay, so you could say the tutors are, or you could just say they are, compassionate, generous with their time, and patient. Okay, so they are compassionate, generous with their time, and patient. Okay, and then for the requirements to be a tutor, you should have written complete 12 hours of training in tutoring techniques. Complete 12 hours of training in tutoring techniques, or just complete 12 hours of training. That's fine. And then number 5, meet their student for at least 1.5 hours. Meet their student for at least 1.5 hours. Okay, and then number 6, commit to a minimum of 6 months. Commit to a minimum of 6 months. Okay, so same thing. Include all 3 of the requirements in one sentence. Okay, so you could say tutors, or they, are required to complete 12 hours of training, meet their student for at least 1.5 hours, and commit to a minimum of 6 months. Okay, so as we learned before, you can use the passive voice, they are required to, or you could just say they need to. They need to complete 12 hours of training and so on. Okay, so moving on to exercise 2. For this exercise, we are going to review the grammar we learned in Unit 5. So if you remember, we talked about using as soon as and until. And we're also going to practice using even though and although from this unit. So go ahead and complete this story. And when you're finished, write questions for the answers in exercise B. So go ahead and do the entire exercise number 2. Okay, so let's look at the story together. A love of technology. My friend Bob loves technology. As soon as a new computer comes out, he buys it. The same is true with his cell phone. He doesn't wait until the end of his contract. Even though his cell phone is still good, he buys a new one. Because he loves the latest technology, his house is filled with new devices. Although he has the newest devices, he keeps the old ones. His wife is unhappy. She has told him, "No more electronic gadgets until you get rid of the old ones." Although Don really wants a new phone, he can't bear to discard his older devices. Okay, do you have anyone like that in your family? Okay, so let's look at exercise B. Look at the words that are underlined in the answers and write the questions for those answers. So, number 1, if you look at the sentence, it says, Bob loves technology. And Bob is underlined, so write a question for Bob as the answer. Okay? So, hopefully you already finished this. So you could write, who loves technology? Who loves technology? Okay, and number 2, he buys a new cell phone as soon as a new one comes out. Okay, so we could ask, when does he buy a new cell phone? When does he buy a new cell phone? Number 3, his house is filled with new devices. So we could ask, what is his house filled with? What is his house filled with? Now, many of you probably remember that we talked about using prepositions in the beginning of a question, especially with formal English. So you might see, with what is his house filled? But as I mentioned, that's not as common in informal conversation. So it's much more common and natural to say, what is his house filled with? Okay, and the last one, number 4. Because of all the electronic gadgets, Bob's wife is unhappy. And you can see that it starts with because, so that's a big hint. So we can ask, why is Bob's wife unhappy? Why is Bob's wife unhappy? Okay, so page 83, pronunciation. Okay, so we're going to practice stressed and unstressed words. So if you look at the box underneath, it says content words such as nouns, main verbs, adverbs, adjectives, negatives, and question words are usually stressed. Function words such as pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions, articles, be verbs, and auxiliary verbs are usually not stressed. Okay, so I'm going to play this audio clip. So listen to the stressed and unstressed words in each sentence. The stressed words are already underlined for you.
Page 83. Exercise 3A. 1,
Pam loves electrical appliances because they save her time.
2,
She wants to volunteer in the healthcare field.
3,
Even though computers are time savers, some people don't use them.
4,
Will he go to sleep as soon as his visitors leave?
Okay, and for exercise B, listen and repeat, and then underline the stressed content words. Okay, so let me play the audio.
Page 83. Exercise 3B. 1,
She delivers meals to seniors.
2,
Volunteers should be patient and compassionate.
3,
Do you walk to work or drive?
4,
Mr. Chung isn't a fan of email.
Okay, and for exercise C, this time there's no audio. You just have to read the paragraph and underline the stressed words. You probably noticed when you were listening to the audio that some words are stressed a little bit stronger than other stressed words. So even though there are many stressed words, some words are a little bit stronger and others are a little less stressed. So the words are stressed in different degrees. So of course we would not say Pam loves electrical appliances because they save her time. That's not natural and it sounds really funny. So a natural way would be to stress some words a little bit stronger than others. So that's why sometimes people say that English sounds like a wave. So Pam loves electrical appliances because they save her time. So as you can see, not every word is stressed the same way. So go ahead and do exercise C, and when you're finished, I'm going to read it. And you can compare it with your reading and your underlined words. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the paragraph. Ingrid worked with computers in her native country, so she wants a job working with computers in the US. She's been looking for several months, but she hasn't found a job yet. Finally, she decided to do some volunteer work until she could find a paying job. Ingrid volunteers at the local zoo. She does office work on the computer. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. And we're going to skip exercise D. You can do that on your own if you want. But for homework, I want you to turn to page 79 in your student's book. So lesson E, writing, page 79. So as you can see in exercise 2, it says to write a paragraph about a time-saving device. So you can use one of the devices you listed in exercise 1 on page 78. So from exercise 1, you made a list of time-saving devices. So you can just pick one of those and write a paragraph about it. So give the paragraph a title, include a topic sentence, and describe at least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. Use the paragraph in exercise 1B and the diagrams in exercises 1C and 1D to help you. Okay, so that's for homework, and next time we will begin Unit 7.